festive in the holiday time. And this is a time when the festival lights and decorated trees and the red and greens everywhere are signs that Christmas is upon us. But the true sign or the true smell of Christmas is when you smell the freshly baked cakes and cookies and all the goodies and chocolates. So our conversation today is about safe bakes for the holiday season. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome our esteemed panel. So we have Dr. Ramesh Kantaria, Head R&D of Duke's India, who's an experienced R&D and quality assurance professional from the FMCG industry.
Everyone. Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Morning. And we have Mr. Vimal Sharma, Director and Chief Executive Officer of Smoor Bliss Chocolates. Welcome, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you. Good morning, all.
Good morning. And we have Mr. Mahesh Madiala, CEO and co-founder of Cuisina Food Tech, which is the force behind Warm Oven and the online and dessert bakery brand. And also they've added on Kati Zone and Indiana Burgers. So welcome, Mr. Madiala.
Hi, and good morning, everyone.
Great. So to start off our conversation, now, of course, around the world, baking is a very important part of any festivals or any celebrations. It hasn't been so much so in India traditionally, but things have changed over the years, and it's now become an important part of every occasion, part of family celebrations, part of gifting, part of community celebrations. And everyone has their own little tradition or their own little twist to a traditional recipe when it comes to baking and when it comes to sweet treats. So of course, for a long time, it was limited to plum cakes and fruit cakes and probably your gingerbread cookies. But there's been a shift. So you have a lot more traditional European Christmas goodies, which are now coming in as well. And which are quite popular. And also, of course, innovations with the Indian touch to it, the Indian flavors. To start with, I want to talk about the trends that have happened over the years when it comes to baking, and of course, your individual journeys and the brands that you come from. Starting with you, Dr. Kantaria, now, of course, you have a very rich experience in R&D and quality assurance. And you've worked across industries. So you've worked with Unilever, Marico, and now, of course, Duke's India. And where you spearhead their R&D for products in India and across the export markets. At Duke's, you have a huge variety of products that you offer. So you've got your biscuits, you've got cookies, chocolates, confectionery, a whole wide range of it. Have you seen consumer awareness and preferences evolve over the years when it comes to baked products?
Thank you, Namita. Yeah, I see, like, due to the changes in the lifestyle, I see like there is a huge increase in the consumption of the baked product. And if I talk about preferences, yes, it has been, we can see based on the studies which we have done, we can see a lot of preferences, like, majorly this baked product or baking goodies, what you can say, is being purchased and consumed by individuals who are 20 to 40 years old. So which we have seen a larger increase in that. In addition to that, nowadays people are aware about the ingredients. So if I talk in some percentage, I have some statistics with me, which suggests that 76% of the consumer are aware about what is being used in the baked product, like, wheat flour, multigrain, oat flour, so they are aware about it. People are like quite aware about it based on the claim which is made on the front of the pack. More than that, people are also aware about the fortification. While they may not be aware about the word fortification, but they know that it is enriched with vitamin A, D, E, and all. And people are like, having quite a preference about the flavors, the taste and the flavors. Like, so if you see 90% of the consumer, which is like totally driven by the flavor and the taste, 90% of the consumer. though there is a preference about the ingredients, but 90% are consumers like, being driven by taste and the flavor. So this is something what is about impulse market. So this is impulse. You sometimes don't plan to buy, some cookies or some goodies. You go to some supermarket and then, just whatever you like, you just, grab it. Now, talking about the consumption, I was surprised to know certain figures that 36% of the total baked product being consumed in India is biscuits, majorly biscuits, and followed by that around 20% of cakes and pastries, and uh, that consumption is like 14% people consumed it daily. This kind of products, baked products, 14% of people who consume it daily, who are like 20 to 40 years old, and around 43% weekly. And coming to the spends, 47% of the total consumer who spends on this spends money on this baked products, is around 100 to 500 rupees at one purchase. So people have been spending a lot of money on it. Then spending power is increased, plus people's awareness is increased. And of course, needless to say that 4 to 5 strong brands people prefer generally, which is like they're in the market. But around 47% of the people experiment also. So they don't mind in buying a brand which is like new entrant or with new claims or maybe new ingredients. So nowadays people and consumer are like so evolved that they keep on experimenting, and I think this is the bigger platform for us. When we want to launch something as a industry or as a company, I think that is something which is very, very good to know, that people's spending power has increased, people as consumer has become aware about what they are buying, about the nutrition and the ingredients. And of course taste and flavor is something which is like inevitable. I mean, that is must required. So this is something which I see that there is a big opportunity as well. And consumer has become also aware. So as an industry also, we need to be offering we should offer, I think, goodies, good things to consumer, which in terms of the taste, flavor, or maybe ingredients, or maybe fortified products. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And it's very interesting. I mean, thank you for the statistics. That always helps. But you're right when you say that, of course, the age group has changed. But what's more important is not just awareness of different products, but awareness of what's going into the products.
Okay.
That's, I think, and that's also changed over the last 2 years a lot more, when people are a lot more conscious about it. Great. Now, of course, moving on to Mr. Sharma. Smoor began its journeys with chocolates, and then of course, earlier this year you completed 5 years of the journey. Congratulations on that. And you've had quite a growth of I think about 44%. You've mentioned, which is a whopping growth. And you've also, of course, expanded your offering from chocolates and moved on to cakes as well, and macaroons, and cookies. And you also have, I think, a presence now across 3 cities and different type of formats as well, where you've got lounges also, along with some stores. How has your experience been in the journey so far in terms of the awareness and the trends, particularly since you offer also, like I said earlier, when there wasn't too much traditional Christmas goodies offered, but you have that because you have stolen, you have mince pies, which you do find, but not as commonly. So how has your journey been on that?
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. So yes, it's been a wonderful 5 years of journey. I think just to sort of give a little bit of a clarity, our I guess, for listening to Doctor, see, one of the things that probably we are kind of different, not different in terms of it. I think consumption of the product in terms of confectionery, cakes, pastries, we've seen the trend really sort of growing. We've been a premium category. That is the something that we have always owned and executed, be offline and now into online. I guess one of the interesting things that we sort of kind of seeing in the last 2 to 3 years has been that the customer's appetite for this product is very much, they really, the knowledge they have, in terms of any products, like you mentioned, like a Christmas offerings. There is a very strong knowledge the consumers have on what this product is and what it should contain, and in terms of the taste level. So we've seen a significant increase in the knowledge base of the consumer. Second thing, what we finding is right now is that, the expansions is happening because there's a demand. So we are growing. I think we are in three, 4 cities now, 30 plus locations. Probably by next year will be probably 100 plus locations. The reason we are expanding is there is a gap and there is a demand for great products. Now, one thing we have noticed also is when it comes to cakes, pastries, or some of these cookies, and in a premium segment, it's very important aspect is, as you also rightly mentioned, this it is use has become a very important part. One is that. The second is there's been a very big trend of clean eating in terms of, we've seen the trends on vegan, we've seen the trends on no added sugar, we've seen the trend on keto increasing significantly. So that has rightly, from our experience now, demanding a customer wanting to know the source of your ingredients. They're wanting to know how the product preparation happens. So now they are more, if a consumer wants to buy a product, these are the boxes you have to tick, right? In terms of the ingredients we use, in terms of how, much of I think if we are adding any additives, emulsifiers, etc. And then also is the labeling of the product correct? If you specify a product is a couverture chocolate, or if you specify if your cake is vegan, if you specify it is eggless, for consumer now, a process has become a very important trend. So what we have found is that over time has become a way to ensure that whatever products we develop, whatever products we launch, things are taken into consideration, apart from taste, look, feel, shelf life. So that we have seen, especially in that the growth has been substantial. But the other aspect we have also seen is that, when you do launch a product, the demand is for a smaller portion than a bigger portion. So, I think that those days are gone, kgs, 2 kgs. Now people want a very good, authentic product, but in a smaller portions. So that's where we coming from. And as Dr. rightly mentioned, product information on is a paramount. Letting customers know on the ingredients, letting customers know on the the rating aspect of the health aspect, letting customers know the process has become a very experienced journey. Now, if you convert that into a digital aspect, or if you're in an offline, it is become very fundamental to, that unless and until a customer sees the back of the label of the product, until a customer sees how the product is made with a short video, etc., they don't get the confidence. And for any new startup brands, it is probably they have to work twice as hard. But established brand, it is probably a little bit easier because of the brand positioning. But overall, I think it's exciting times ahead. But at the same time, keeping in mind that the compliance point of view in terms of ingredients, in terms of the testing, in terms of the health aspect of it, in terms of the clean eating aspect of it, and in terms of the portioning, these are some of the key areas that we as an organization are focused on, and we are continuing to expand our journey.
That's great to know. And like you said, of course, your journey, which has been brilliant, and the 100+ stores that you're looking at in the future as well. That's great to know. But when you talk about the increase in knowledge and the awareness, like Dr. Kantaria also said, it's actually a hand-in-hand process where it's not just the consumer, but then it also becomes organizations like yours, like the three of you, that actually work together with them and increase their awareness and give them the products that they're actually looking for as well, and the quality that they're seeking. So that's a hand-in-hand process that goes on.
Agreed.
Now, moving to you, Mr. Madhyala, to 2021 also an important year for all of you when you've completed 8 years with Cucina Food Tech. Cucina, of course, in Greek, it translates to good food. And that's what you've always strived to do when you've also added on offline versions. And it's been a journey for you, because when you started with Warm Oven, you started with a single brand kitchen in one place, and then moved on to multiple brands now, and of course, multiple locations as well. And you've moved from simple round cakes to a lot more elaborate decorative cakes also. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with Warm Oven, and particularly in terms of customer choices and the engagement channels over the years, because you've chosen consciously to keep Warm Oven as a delivery only model?
Sure. Hi, Namita. Hope you can hear me fine.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Mahesh here. In fact, I'll take off from where Vimal talked about knowledge and, the other aspects that are, the points that he touched upon, to start my comment by saying, I'm someone who's not from the food industry, right? I'm an engineer by profession. I did my management from IIM, and then thanks to what is all Dr. Ramesh and Vimal talked about, right? The changes that are happening in the industry really gave me the courage that this is something that I can get into. There is an audience that wants to know all that information, and that's something that we can cater to, right? So yeah, you're right. It's been 8 years for Warm Oven now. Starting from a single small kitchen in Indranagar, we are now at about 50+ kitchens in about 15 cities, right? So a couple of points I want to touch upon, just to have a clear understanding for everyone. This journey of over 8 years is essentially being about focused on the customer. I mean, I don't want to make very broad statements, but Dr. Ramesh talked about how your customer base, how much they consume bakery products, right? Identifying the right sweet spot, identifying the right customer or your target segment becomes very important, right? And fortunately for us, over the last 8 years, it has been all about having a hunch. Like I said, not being from a food industry, but being being able to build a team who can deliver onto something, and then purely wearing the business lens. It's about focusing, narrowing down the focus on what actually the end customer wants, right? And getting better and better at it, right? So this last 8 years journey has been about this focus. And today, being in about 15 cities and 50+ locations, we've found a niche in terms of, we found our place in terms of this is what the end customer wants from us. So connecting back to what both Dr. Ramesh and Vimal talked about is, in our case, it's about a freshly baked cake being delivered to the customer. We found a very good market for this kind of this set of products, right? And this is not just in tier 1 cities. Right now, when I say 15 cities, the 12 of the cities are tier 2, tier 3 India, right? And we have made very significant traction in the last 1 year or so in that part of the country, because there is an audience that really wants a freshly baked product. Of course, be it the folks before me talked about the ingredients, etc., right? Now when you go to tier 2, tier 3, probably they're not as knowledgeable, but they rely on the brand, right, to give you the confidence that whatever I'm consuming is of a certain level, and healthy, and all those kind of things, and that's what a brand represents, right? So coming to the last point of the question that you raised, why are we still a delivery only model? The point is, for us as a business, it still really makes a whole lot of sense, because there is a wide market out there in terms of having the focus on what is the customer segment that we are going after. India is a very broad, very large country, and the best where we are reaching our end customers, it helps us just to be focused on delivery, opening in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and making sure we reach our customers through that delivery channel with fresh baked goods.
That's great to know. And I think what's a lot more significant for me is what you mentioned, that out of the 15 cities, 12 are tier 2, tier 3, which actually tells you, how preferences have changed, how awareness has changed. And like you said, awareness possibly not of ingredients, but then the trust on the brand, which is what, it comes down to what I said earlier, that it's not just the consumer, but then it's the brands that walk them through that journey. And that's how you kind of ensure that, there's quality which is maintained. And of course, the awareness that increases. It's great to know. Just getting on to the next point, when we talk about safety and quality, there's, of course, like I said, heightened awareness over the last 2 years. I think 2 years has actually taught people a lot of things. And definitely one of the most important is they want to know where their food is coming from. And like Dr. Kantaria said, they want to know what's in it as well, and how it was prepared. Now, festivities is one area, and especially after 2 years, when you're slowly wanting to get back and get back with family and friends, that you sometimes let your guard down, which can actually lead to unpleasant times in the festive season. So how can we help make them make informed choices? So again, starting with you, Dr. Kantaria, what are the kind of things that you do to integrate food safety into your products and processes? And out of this, is there something that consumers can incorporate into their homes?
Thank you, Namita. I think it's a very good point you have raised, that, after 2 years, I think people have little bit become little bit open, and things are being opening. But at the same time, I think we should be very bit aware about the food safety. The whatever we consume should be safe for consumption, and we should not let our guards down, because there are many offerings right now. But as you mentioned, people are preferring certain brands as they feel that, which is like, trustworthy and reliable. But I would like to add this little point here is, people are become little bit experimental as well, and they love to consume artisan things. I think Mahesh and Vimal both will be agreed to me on this point, that it's not only a branded product, but what you can say, uh, food which is prepared near to your home, or if you are aware about the ingredients, or something like, freshly cooked food, which is very much in demand. And the reason behind it, like, it's very simple. I'll touch upon that, but just to again throw some light over here, is like, in our facilities, in our factories, we ensure few things which is like very much important and which is no negotiable here. One is cross contamination. So whenever we take any products, we ensure that it is separated or isolated from the other line. We have enough space between it, and there are enough and more arrangements are being done to ensure that there is no even air cross contamination is also not allowed. That's one thing. Second thing is safe and hygienic environment, so which is very important. Each and every machines are being cleaned as per their schedule, plus the swabs are being taken to understand that microorganism or pathogens are not present, not only on the line but on for the from the workers hands also we take swabs. But that is one thing. Ingredient safety is also very important. While we are like very much aware and very much concerned about whatever we make in on our line, but the ingredients manufacturers who are making those ingredients, we do regular audits to those ingredient suppliers. Plus, we do surprise audits. We make a system that so that they equally follow certain guidelines, which is ensuring that which helps in ensuring the food safety in some of the microorganisms, pathogens, as well as the hygiene and cross contamination. Allergen is something which is like people are generally not aware about in India. There is not lot of awareness. People see like there are many people are lactose intolerant in India, but they may not be aware because milk consumption per se, milk per se is drastically come down. But there is a whey protein, there is a skim milk powder which is being added into these kind of bakery products and chocolates. So that is one thing. Allergen is something which is very important, and people should be aware about it. uh, Reformulation is also something very important. There are companies that what they do is there are certain products. Suppose if it is not as per the recipe, they what they do is after the making or producing that product, they reformulate those products. Now we have a standard clear policy of the chemical and physical analysis of those. I would like to raise a small point here is maybe Mahesh and Vimal can also appraise on those aspects, that when you bake the product, any product per se, for the longer time, it creates acrylamides, furfuranls, and furans. So these chemicals are very harmful, so we should not rebake the product when it is baked. Suppose there is a sponge cake per se, when it is already baked, and when you rebake it, to give a proper texture, give a fresh and healthy look. Look, taste wise, there is no issue. Texture wise, there is no issue. In fact, safety wise, it is better. But we should be very much aware about the levels of these particular chemicals which get generated and which are carcinogenic. Acrylamide, furfurars, and furals are very carcinogenic, and that grows in presence of glucose. So where there is a sugar, yes. However, certain amino acid like leucine and all, which helps in reducing the levels of furfurals, acrylamides, and all. But we should be very much aware about it. So use of antioxidants is required. Right now tocopherols are being used in our products. You see, like vitamin E is added into our products. It's nothing but the antioxidants. Now, antioxidants helps in reducing the oxidation of these products, which are like very much oxidant sensitive. So these are the things which we take care of it. And of course, clean machine, clean factory is very much required, as we do the same thing at our home. You know, so I think these are the certain practices which every company should follow. While FSSAI, FSSR on place, FDA licensing audits, consumer that company audits are in place, but I think these things are no negotiable. Look, people should have a food mindset. It should not be a production mindset or manufacturing mindset. Ki, whatever like is required, we'll just make it and dump the market. I think food mindset is very much required, and people should be aware about it. You should not be tasting the product on the line. They should not be touching their mouth or tongue, or like tasting it like that, just like that. So we have enough measures. Like as you grow, we export a lot, so there are many requirements for the exports and stringent rules and regulations which we follow, which are non-negotiable. So that at our factories, I think we take care of these things, and we have gone into detail, like when we claim vitamins and minerals on the packs, we also see that what is the bioavailable after baking. So if I say vitamin D is added into product, how much vitamin D goes to the consumer, and how much he consumes, and how much is bioavailable in their body. There is certain, like vitamin C and all, which is written, there is a big claim on the pack, but then when they consume, there is a very little which is bioavailable and which get absorbed in the body, and rest of the goes in the vein. So these are the things which we take care of it in detail, and that's why we are like growing and getting into brands which are like we are getting into artisan brands as well, which are certainly what you can say, a freshly cooked, freshly baked products, and I think we are growing in that segment. I hope it answers your question, Namita.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's very nice to know how stringent and how detailed the processes are at Duke's, because I think that again it comes down to that consumer confidence, that they know that where the food is coming from, where it's prepared and packaged, it is safe.
Certainly.
And just taking on from what you've said, and when I asked what can they take on to do at home, like you said, cleanliness. But I think 3 points that I could probably come down to, and what all three of you also would represent, is one is, of course, it's the following the basics and keeping in mind your basics, so your cleaning and all of that. And then it's also your consistency. So you're making sure that you're following that. So you have like a schedule at home as well, if you want to put it that way. And then, of course, coming down to attention for detail. So like you said, rebaking, or just making sure that you're consuming it quickly and storing it correctly, and all of those come in, which is great to know. Uh,
Sorry,
Now,
sorry,
moving
Namita.
on to
Sorry to
you.
interrupt. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt here. I think a few points I would like to add here is the ingredients which you buy for baking. Like suppose if I take an example of baking soda, suppose just like like when you're buying for your home baking purpose, there are certain brands which are selling at some X rupees, certain brand is selling at X minus 20%. So you should be, I think there are no ways and measures to understand what may be the quality, but I think trust and the legacy is something which is very important here. So that one should keep that in mind. Plus, whatever the ingredients, like suppose it's a cake mix, or suppose it's something like cookie mix, what are the ingredients mentioned there? So I think people should be more aware nowadays, because considering the nowadays today's scenario, people should be more aware about what they are eating it, because otherwise there are many products, like you see in retail in the part of Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat and all. Government has destroyed many products which are like non-eatables, and which is being added into the retail products, which are like the thela or restaurants or something like that. So I think people should be aware about what is being added into the product, and generally buy from the branded stuff, like which are the ingredient suppliers and all. So I think that is very important to know, for the people, for the just cost cutting purpose. I think you can charge premium to the consumer, but give better product to the consumer, and gain the trust, I think. Yeah, carry on then.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I think something that we'll touch upon later, but increasingly very, very important for consumers to turn their product around and read what's in front, to actually see what's inside. Great. Now, of course, Mr. Sharma, it's more synonymous with quality and consistency. You're known for that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how your model offers, how you communicate food safety as a pillar of the brand? And do you think it's important, it's gained that much importance now, where it's actually uh, making people a lot more conscious and spending time to actually think about it? You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, just wanted to thank you. Just wanted to add, I think what Doc has sort of mentioned in terms of your manufacturing practices. These are these are a non-negotiable where you have to tick all those boxes, which we do in our manufacturing setup. I think I just wanted to add I just want to add 2 or 3 points before we get to that. Is some of the things that we rigorously do because especially when you are into a fresh bakes, you use ingredients like flour, maida, and you use varieties of probably nuts, etc. One of the very fundamental importance is that when the raw materials do arrive, you testing for the ash content, ensuring that it's not adulterated and it's within the shelf life, because these are some of the challenges we face. So having that rigorous, a very clear team that, qualified people that are at the receiving side of things is a very critical part, because you tend to find also sometimes that when products are received, the vehicles that are carrying are probably are not in the right temperature control vehicles, the vehicles are not clean, etc. So having your quality team in there who are disciplined and sort of maintaining those disciplines and also educating your vendors is very important. So that is something we have been known for. Now, as far as the other aspects for our business is concerned, I think people do, safety for us is because we do a lot of packaged goods. So either it is pre-packed and customers just grab and go, or they will be literally picking it up from the store. We pack it and hand it over to them or deliver it to it. So which is the last mile. So one big aspect if you take about your cakes, your pastries, and even to that matter, your chocolates, is your temperature control. For food, the danger zone is between 5 degrees and 60 degrees. So what we do have is we have a very clear monitoring systems across all our holding cabinets, where it is all through a data logger system, where at any given time we are able to ensure that the deliveries are happening within those the products are reaching within those specific temperature. For example, cakes and pastries are stored between 1 to 5, and any hot items are above the 60 degrees. So these are some of the basic rules even consumers can follow at home, right? And secondly, keeping products in airtight containers, ensuring that anything that is fresh, you are not keeping it more than 2 to 3 days, or depending on the product it is. And when it passed the shelf life, we should always discard it rather than trying to find a reason just to test it out. So these are some of the things the consumers must follow at home. And then even in the fridges, when you are putting your products, you should cross contamination is a big thing. So eggs should be kept separate. So there's no contamination, etc. So that is from the knowledge of what we follow. These other aspect for us is packaging. You'll find one of the very big. We have a packaging specialist team of about 5 people. Plus, we have an R&D team. Packaging plays a big role. I'll just give you just an example of a chocolate box. When a chocolate box is manufactured, we have to go to the length of testing with our vendors that the glue, if any, we try and avoid using glue in our packaging. But if any glue is required, it is the food grade tested, 3M type used by our vendors. So, and then of course the cake boxes, it should be food grade. Inside should be laminated, because these are the fundamentals. The product is touching the packaging, so it can be a contamination there. And then of course the third aspect, if any packaging you create, if someone is traveling with it, it should be able to hold that product to certain temperatures. So packaging, even though our aesthetics is one of the main experience for us, the quality of the packaging that is required is absolutely paramount. It is a non-negotiable. because you're dealing with food, you're dealing with and it's something that people consume. So the good packaging, that it is food safe, is a very important part, and that is the experience we create. And of course, anything in relation to that, regularity team is there, to make sure, give us an input onto other aspects of it. So these are the fundamentals that has sort of gives us, we've always believed in, and then we always execute to that, and we have a very strong, team, that is in place, and then everyone has a specific role to play in terms of packaging, in terms of raw materials coming in, about testing it, and during the production time, we take samples and do moisture analysis, etc., etc. So these are a required norm, and then organizations that follow that, they are bound to grow faster, and these are the foundations that are required. So yeah, so that's how, that's my input on that, and that's how we sort of perceive the whole aspect of it. As a matter of fact, we are right now in the process. Even delivery business has increased significantly. So we are in the process right now. We are making significant investment around where a customer will be able to, using the app, how they track their order, they will be able to now also see what is the temperature of that product that was put in the box at any given time. They will be able to see what is the temperature is traveling at any given time. If that box is open, they will be able to see where and what location the box is open, and when it's delivered, we will also confirm to them what temperature it was delivered at. So these are the new advancement any organization now requires, especially when they're handling food.
That's wonderful to know. And again, I mean, like I said, your brands stand for that. And as you said, that any brand that actually takes this into account will grow faster, which is shown in Smore's journey. And of course, the customer trusts that they follow you wherever. Robust processes, and I'm even glad that you're using technology, because technology can help any business strengthen the systems that they already have in place. And of course, like you mentioned, storage, something at home, which a lot of people don't sometimes think about, that you put everything into the fridge together and you don't realize that there's actually a place for everything. And that's great to know. Of course, speaking of technology, moving to you, Mr. Madhyala. So again, delivery only model. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the advantages or the challenges that you feel or that you found in implementing food safety guidelines, particularly because you, of course, would maintain everything at your end, but then your delivery partners may not be aware or may not be actually following that. So how do you find that balance, and what are the challenges that you find there? You're on mute.
Yep. Let me bring a entrepreneur's view, a small business view to this topic that Dr. Ramesh and Vimal have talked about, right? Well, both these gentlemen, talk about at great lengths on food safety and those aspects, which I, as a small entrepreneur, right, I really have to make the right decision on the choice of vendors that I make, because some of those subjects, some of those topics I know are super important to my customer, right? But I am making the judgment. Dr. Ramesh talked about a few things, right? Which the choices are made by us as a brand, in terms of the ingredients, in terms of the vendors that we choose, right? And the choices that I'm talking about is not just looking at the cost and the product that's being put in front of us, but also looking at the quality, looking at the quantity, looking at the
You're on mute.
Am I back? Sorry for
Yes,
that.
yes.
Okay. So what I was saying is that, the choices that, we end up making on behalf of our customers, those are very important choices. Just touching upon what Dr. Ramesh talked about, it's not about cost, right? We have those choices are made by a set of chefs and people knowledgeable about the industry. Like I said, I'm not from that industry, but I rely upon them to make the right choices for me as a consumer and for my consumer, right? So that's super important, right? The next set of things, as a small business, as a small kitchen, that's a live kitchen, is essentially about ensuring the SOPs that that are prescribed are followed to the T, right? And that is what is something that an entrepreneur like me can bring to the table. There are companies like yours, Food Safety Works, other auditors who can come and tell us that, these are things that going wrong, but the choice, the decision to make those things happen on a daily basis is something that I, as a business, I need to have the discipline of executing, right? Why I'm telling you all this is that, you know, first, these are the set of things that necessarily have to be done. And then I need to worry about the next set of things that you talked about in terms of the delivery to the customer. The 90% of it is still within the kitchen. And, I don't want to keep repeating about it, especially in the last 2 years, the importance on hygiene, importance on communicating that, these are things being done in our kitchens becomes super important in a delivery led model for us, because the end customer is not, getting a glimpse of what is happening in the kitchen, right? So small things like writing the temperature of our boys as and when they had come into the shift, when the item was prepared before sending out, putting a note on that box saying that, this was when it was prepared. Those are things that we really need to do to communicate to the customer that, these are things that are being done, and please have the confidence in us that, this is what has been done with specific to this product. Now, coming to a specific point on delivery, I agree, probably that's the weakest link in this entire delivery business, right? In the food delivery business, that, how the package that gets shipped out of your kitchen gets handled in the next 30 minutes before it arrives at your house, right? We really don't have a lot of control on that. In some sense, that is probably the easiest part to fix, because, all you need to do is that, the core product, make sure that Vimal touched upon it. The core product, irrespective of how mishandled it can be, continues to be in the environment that you would want to be, you won't want to have it as delivered to the customer. Please have an outer package, right? That can be mishandled, can be dropped, can be shaken, but the core product still remains the same. So from a brand's perspective that are doing online delivery, I'll tell you, the investments being made on the packaging, right? They go a really long way. That is one area that brands should not try to cut costs on, because that is what gets finally delivered to the customer. That is what finally, from a safety and all other aspects, right? That's what the customer receives it as, right? So that's something that my request to all listeners is that, that's not one area that you should cut corners on.
Absolutely. And like you said, I mean, that's the one area that reaches the customers. And it's actually, when you said that, customers don't see what's happening in the kitchen, they're actually seeing that parcel that comes to them, right? And if it's got dents, if it's torn, if it's not in the right shape, and especially with the kind of products that you have, where they're decorative cakes, if that is bent out of shape, that one is the question on the product inside, but then it's the question on the brand eventually, that this is what they've sent. So it's very crucial that every area of the supply chain is looked at. Great. So I'm glad to hear that. Just moving on. Now, when we spoke about awareness earlier, when we started the conversation, and how they know a lot more about ingredients and products, and then about health, of course, what goes into it. They're also a lot more mindful now because there's dietary preferences and nutritional preferences that people look at when it comes to food choices. So they're shifting to healthier options, or they're even looking at swapping ingredients within products, especially when at home. So when it comes to either flour or with sugar and fat. And FSSAI also through Eat Right India is trying to promote the reduction of added sugars and fats and phasing out trans fats. But festive goodies or festive time is one where we tend to try and forget most of this, and we indulge. And of course, cakes and chocolates are all about indulgence. But the change in lifestyle is forcing a lot of people to actually find a balance. Now, how do we look at helping them find that balance between mindful celebration and sinful indulgence? So again, Dr. Kantaria, starting with you, how do you deal with consumer preference across the various products that you offer? And are there alternative options or ingredients that you have available for consumers who have these dietary and nutritional preferences?
Well, yes, Namita. I think you touched upon a very right point that, we should find a balance between the mindful indulgence and, sorry, sinful indulgence and mindful choices. Look, here, consumer, as I mentioned earlier, consumer is getting evolved. But at the same time, what I strongly feel is my personal opinion that consumer awareness should be taken very seriously. Right now, we see many products in the market which claims that it contains jowar flour, bajra flour, or maybe XYZ multigrain. When you see really the back of the pack of the multigrain, what is it exactly? Is it really a multigrain, or 4% of multigrain and rest 15% is still maida? So I think that is it is what is something which is very important, for the consumer to know, and for us to make a give a choice to a consumer to make informed choices. Right now our rules and regulation are not such stringent, which always certain companies make find out the way in between to claim certain products. But this is something which is very important for the consumer to know. Second thing is, since Vimal and Mahesh has touched upon the delivery and the temperature, I think I would like to add one more point here is, whatever the temperature range is given, like suppose if it is given like 20 to 40 degrees Celsius, if the temperature range is given, if the particular product is maintained in that temperature during the delivery and the consumption, then it is very good. But at the same time, supposedly it is like, between 20 to 40, suppose it is mentioned, and suppose the, product has gone down to around 18 degrees Celsius or 15 degrees Celsius, and then you again reheat it. Look, thermal shock, product temperature goes down and then again goes up, or goes up and goes down. Thermal shock is very much not I mean very much what you can say, you should be very much careful about it. It is not good to have a thermal shock in the product. When the thermal shock happens in the product, there will be a growth of the microorganisms. There will be a growth of pathogens. So I think certain microorganism growth has happened, happens during that particular thermal shock. And of course, the environment, like, there are certain eastern mold, which grows at lower pH. So acidic environment also helps in growing those. But yeah, coming to this particular, preferences about the consumer has become so aware about it, and consumer prefers the product which is like, freshly cooked, freshly baked, which is having the good ingredients and clean label. People are talking about clean label, but there are ways and means about it. People are adding emulsifiers and stabilizers. Now, there is no thin line. I would like to add this point here to all listeners. people, just certain brands just come up with, there is something preservative free. Now, preservative is not something which is harmful to us. Look, when we make pickle at our home, we add lot of oil into it because it can stay longer for years, and oil is preservative. Yeah. So it is not something which is non-edible or non-eatable. Preservative, yeah, there are certain chemicals, like suppose if I say that I have added tocopherol, but tocopherol is nothing but vitamin E. It's a natural vitamin E, which is an antioxidant, which is like, FSSAI has mentioned that, it is like there is something E number, E422 or something like that. There are certain emulsifiers, which is soy lecithin, which is an ingredient which is being extracted from soy. So it's a soy lecithin which helps in emulsifying and stabilizing the product. It is not a preservative. But then there are certain companies which has put their that particular thing into consumers' mind that this product is with preservatives, and our product is without preservatives. So there is a thin line between what is preservative and what are harmful chemicals. So I think people and consumer should know that what is the thin line about it, thin line about preservatives and harmful chemicals, which is not harmful. And preservative, we all add preservatives in our day-to-day products as well, to preserve that product for the longer. Like, you keep some certain things in fridge and all for a day to consume. You can consume after the 24 hours also, you consume certain products. So there's nothing harmful, which is like, which is non-edible. And, nowadays, FSSAI says FSSAI in place, there's certain rules and regulation in place. I think people don't add non-edible things into retail products. And trusted brand, of course not. Because, they don't, cut corners on certain aspects, which is compromising on consumer safety and consumer health. So while awareness has increased, the half awareness is also very harmful, Namita. Because the half awareness, I'm aware about, doctor tells me this is good carbohydrate, this is bad carbohydrate. I mean, what is good and bad? Yeah. I mean, carbohydrate is carbohydrate. What is good carbohydrate? What is sugar is bad carbohydrate? Rice is good carbohydrate. I mean, yeah, I understand. There are certain terms because nutritionist and dietitian also has to run their business. So there are certain terms. No offense, please, but I think we should make consumer aware about the facts and figures. This is the fact. There are no harmful chemicals while there are preservatives in the product. But yes, it is just to make sure that whatever you consume the product, it is for you to safe to consume. There are cookies, there are biscuits, there are cakes. It is safe to consume. It is not a harmful chemical which we are adding to the product, which will make that, your system totally, go for a toss. So I think that is what is very important for consumer to know, that what is ingredient. And if you are not aware, you can always write, you can always ask, you can always, now Google has all the information. You can always seek the information, but rather to make a judgment over there, you just make a judgment that it is like we're having high preservatives and all. And those people only that go to restaurants and consume the product. So I think that is very, because there are I think Mahesh and Vimal maybe agreed to me. There are certain outlets wherein these FSSI or the certain retail products, I would say not on the shelf product, but certain retail products or for restaurant or hoteliers, there are certain rules and regulations which is not required to follow. If I'm adding certain X ingredient in cookies, which is not allowed for my retail product, which is on the shelf, there are certain products like, which is allowed for hoteliers to serve just like that, cookies, and then the sprinkle on it, and which is allowed, which is like, a very, very vague or very, different system here. But I think people should be aware about it, what they are consuming. And I think more awareness is required here in India, wherein people, consumers should be very much skeptical, means very much aware about, should be very much aware about what they are consuming, what they are eating, and where is this coming from, what may be the source. So keeping the product simple, not adding fancy ingredient, is also a good product. I'm making a product with maida, suppose. But maida we always consume. We eat naan, we eat kulcha, we eat maida. So I think maida is not harmful. It is being fed into our mind that maida is harmful. Of course it is harmful when you eat at the larger quantity, and whatever you eat is an excess quantity is always harmful. So you should be
Absolutely.
always about what you are consuming. You should make informed choices. And coming to the very
Anything in
important point
excess
is,
is, yeah,
yes, nothing. I mean, you should not make a judgment that this cookie is made from bajra flour or jowar flour, and this is made from maida or wheat. What is the protein content of wheat and what is the protein content of bajra? It is more or less a similar, or maybe little bit higher
right,
on this side. What you are talking about, gluten is not good. Of course gluten is not good, but when it's consumed at excess,
right.
so I think these are the things people are not really aware about it. And the certain people or dietitians, nutritionists, or certain companies misguide the people, and then they feed the because there is a marketing gimmick, natural है, अच्छा है. But at the same time we have been consuming. मुझे आज तक कुछ नहीं हुआ. मैं छोटा सा तब से, when I'm younger, I have been eating parle जी. मुझे कुछ नहीं हुआ आज तक. So I mean, these are the things which is very important, I think. So I
Absolutely.
think, in the interest of time, I think, because it is very very important topic close to my heart, and I can speak for hours on this, but I think in interest of time, I think let's move on to the further on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think we will continue with you though. This definitely calls for a repeat at some point. But you're right. I mean, just to sum that up, it's informed choices, and of course, anything in excess is bad for you. It may, even the good thing in excess would be bad for you. So it's really knowing what you is and knowing how much to have, which is very important. Now, when I spoke about indulgence. The next two companies, of course, are all about indulgence, so chocolates and cakes. So, Mr. Sharma, of course, your products, if I can say, not entirely healthy, but I know you have a target, which you've set yourself. You said that next 5 years, over the next 5 years, you want to move towards a lot more healthy products. So in that context, what are the kind of product ranges and ingredients that you're looking at in making that transition in your next 5 years growth at S'more? I think you can't hear.
Vimal, you are on mute, I guess, or there is some issue in the Bluetooth.
I think, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just a quick one. I think just the fact of the matter is, as Doc mentioned, and you also mentioned, eating in moderation is important. Now, when you talk about healthy aspect of the product, right? I mean, chocolate has a very good health aspect to it. And see, one of the things I touch base and sort of, I'll not take too much time. I've seen the consumers themselves are becoming healthy. Now, what does healthy mean? The portioning of the sizes. Like you can eat something, either it's about eating 200 grams of it, or you choose to eat 50 grams of it, right? So one of the aspects for us has been, bringing the products into a portion control, smaller packs, right? Instead of having a 100 gram, let's see if we can bring it in at a 30 grams. The second thing for us, healthy means the fact of the matter is, what are the things you are adding to it, right? For example, if you have a 80% dark chocolate, now putting a roasted almond into it, is it better than putting something called caramelized Rice Krispies to it, right? So what is the balancing act of the product you are using to create that health aspect is very important for us, right? As Doc mentioned, be maida, be whole wheat. It is what are you supplementing with that is a very important aspect of it, right? So we've gone for that. Now, secondly, we talk about health aspect. Is it gluten free? Is it no added sugar? Or is it I guess using almond flour, using all that? So these are all the aspects. So if you look at it with a I'm sure that health rating systems is going to be implemented by FSSAI sooner or later. It is mindful of any manufacturer or people like us in the business to ensure that we take those things into consideration. So yeah, so that's where we heading to. It is about what are we supplementing the product? What are we mixing with? Is it with almonds, or is it with dates, or is it with the higher cocoa percentage? Is it using flourless cakes, or it is using almond flour, or is it using non-dairy? So these are the things that now we are focused on, and we will see to it within the next 5 years, at least 60-70% of our products will be based around this.
That's great. And you're right. I mean, it's about a conscious balance in the ingredients and the combination of ingredients that you have, which of course leads to the final. Forward to the next phase of more. Mr. Madalia, now with the delivery model, you're of course it's easier to indulge. So it's a couple of clicks away that you can actually get it all at home. Now, if you were to look at moving to healthier options or incorporating that preference that customers have, there's always cost which is involved, right? So how willing are customers and your customer base, for instance, to pay a premium for a healthier product?
This is a pretty good question. I mean, in the sense that, it's still something that we keep debating, right? But I'll touch upon one thing that Vimal talked about. Moderation is the key, and as a business, we are the ones who are making the choice on behalf of the customer as to the options that we offer. If you go to the warm oven menu and look at it, right, we actually have something called a mini pastry. Right, I'm calling it mini right now because I don't want the customer to who's seen a big slice of a cake being offered as a as a pastry, because if I am expecting that my customer is going to indulge on this after dinner, right, it has to be at a certain portion level that obviously the number of calories, how sinful it can be, we should consider that, because this is an after dinner dessert, right? And I want to make sure that he keeps coming back to me at regular intervals without really feeling guilty about it, right? So all I'm saying is, as a brand, as a company, the choices that we make in terms of the portion size, there are customers who complain to us that there is a competitor who gives a much bigger price, much bigger piece, but of course it's you prorate it, it's the same, but your portion size is so small, right? Or it's small. We call it a mini pastry for a reason. We want to communicate to that customer, but all I'm saying is those choices are being made by us, conscious choices, right? And I'm hoping, and we are seeing that customers are appreciating the choice, essentially leading to the point that, well, moderation is key is a very philosophical statement to make, but you as a customer, me as a business, we have to work towards that, right? Not just talk about it, right? Now, that said, coming to the next topic of health consciousness and all that, right? I'll also be upfront in telling you that I talked about a variety of customers that we touch in tier 1 and tier 2, tier 3 parts of the country, right? Just being candid, that it's the tier 1 customers who are a lot more health aware in terms of what is going in there, and how big is the portion size, whereas in tier 2, tier 3, we are probably still a few years away. And the point is, like Dr. Ramesh was talking about it, there is a whole lot of education that needs to be done. While that may take years to get it done, brands need to put on that view, saying that choices are being done by us on behalf of these customers. We have to hold ourselves as an industry accountable to the fact that what are we serving to our customers, and over a period of time, that is what essentially ends up in adding a certain trust in a brand, right? Point is, Namita, health as in the desert space, people talking about health is a tier one concept. Tier two, tier three, it still doesn't exist. But all I'm saying is, that's something we as a brand, we need to step in and make people aware of this.
Yep, absolutely. Well put. Right. So just a quick last round. We have exceeded time a little bit, so I'm going to quickly just move on. Last round before we open up for questions. FSSAI, of course, we spoke about it briefly and in the beginning. They've recently revised the food safety and standards labeling and display regulations, which come into effect from January next year, which includes additional nutritional information and allergen declaration on the labels, among other things. So, Dr. Kantaria, how do you think that affects the products? And do you think you'd, of course, touched upon this, but do you think that this will help consumers make better informed choices?
Yes, certainly, Ramita. I think as Vimal has mentioned that, the regulations are getting evolved and there are certain things which are coming up. So this is very welcoming move, if I say, as far as the consumers are concerned. Because in January 2022, when the new regulations will come, every company has to put certain information, nutrition, additional nutrition information, allergens, plus RDA requirements. I think that is what that is what is something which is like very much needed for consumers since long. Now people are not about what is RDA, regular dietary allowances. So I think there is, along with this new regulations, I think what is important is education of the customer. The consumers who should be educated that what is RDA. Suppose if there is a cake or there is a biscuit wherein the packet of biscuit wherein RDA is mentioned that the sugar is like 30%. So that means that as an adult, you should consume 2000 calories, and out of the 2000 calories as a healthy adult of around 60 kg weight, out of the 2000 calories, certain calories should come from sugar, and your regular RDA means allowance, which is like allowed to you, which is like this much percent of sugar. Out of that much percent of sugar, 30% sugar comes from this packet. Now if you consume the packet, your per day sugar consumption should be lessened by 30%. So now you can only have 70% more sugar for the day. Suppose if you are consuming 2 grams of sugar, or let's say 3 grams of sugar, then you can have only 7 grams of sugar per day now going forward. So that regular dietary allowances people are not aware about. While it's a better move, welcoming move from FSSI, I think what is important is education. And once this education is done, I think people will be aware about it. They are saying whatever is in excess, we are talking about maida and all. But when you consume cake and then pastry and then suppose ice cream, what is your sugar level? Sugar level is going high. It is like 200 or 300% of your regular dietary allowances. People are not getting into it. And that is why Mahesh has made the very right point, informed choices. When he mentioned about mini pastries or mini cakes, which is very important, that people should let people take a call. When I go to cafes and all, I always look for the product or the beverage, which is no sugar beverage. And I always end up having green tea. Well, it can be a tea with a little bit of ginger and mint, or maybe we can replace dalchini. Dalchini is a better substitute of sugar. It can give the little bit of sugar perception. So why don't we have these kind of, people are like, when I go to clients, when I meet them, I end up having just green tea or hot water. I don't consume that coffees or like frappes and all. But that is what is required. People make show off that I am aware about it, but consumers should now educate themselves, and this is the right time. company should also, the industry should also educate customers and consumers. Say, look, what you're consuming is this. And I think you make informed choices, and then you can prove that my products is better than others. So, of course, competition is there, but we should not forget that we are here in the market is just because of the consumers only. If we are compromising on their health, they will let us out. They will kick us out. So I think we should take this very seriously. We should amend this very seriously. We should follow this very seriously, and we should make consumers the decision maker, and let them take the informed decision what they want to consume, and make the products which is suitable to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Absolutely, and again, it comes down to that balance, right? So when you said that with the RDA or the regular dietary allowance, it's not that you can have all the the desserts and the sweet treats and the cakes and everything, and the rest of the day you can have whatever you want. So if you've got that indulgence, get your mindful eating as well in the rest of the day. Balance that out, which is very important, and this is a good step, I think. Great. Now, Mr. Sharma, you have a mixed format where you sell fresh products from the store as well as packaged products, like you spoke about earlier, through retail. So how do you ensure that the information that the consumer is looking for is communicated as per regulations and guidelines? Of course, you have a regulatory team as well that advises on it, but how is that communicated across? You're on mute. Sorry.
No, I think I'll just cut it short here, because what is the requirement as per the regulatory? It's up to the organization. Our organization takes that as a minimum what is required. Then we go beyond that. I guess how we are passing those information to consumers. One, in the packaging itself. Second, there is a QR code which can be clicked on, and they can get further information. Third is our customer support center, which are fully trained. If consumers would like to know a little bit more about the ingredients, we do that. And then last and not the least, when it comes to digital online platform, those things are highlighted, and very clearly and very readable. So whatever the preparation happens, be it then the compliance team, regulatory team is there, that we continue to build that team. Currently we have a team of 2 or 3. We're adding more investment to it to ensure, because of this nature of the products we have. So we don't want them to be overstressed or working longer. So because this requires a lot of thinking, a lot of analysis. So having a right team back end is important. Secondly, the communications, the back of pack label, etc., that are printed on the packaging. And third, the other way of communicating this as QR coding through through your customer support lines, and then through information sessions. So that's how we are sort of clearly sending the information to the consumers.
Wonderful, and I like how you have a number of channels where you're looking at this. So there's multiple levels that you address this with. Right, Mr. Madalia. Now, in addition to the labeling and display regulation, there's what are other challenges with regards to regulations that you face with your setup?
Namita, I'll give a entrepreneur's answer to this, right? I mean, India can be a very difficult country in terms of following all the rules and regulations, because you will always find a rule that you're not complying with. And now the entrepreneur's answer to this is that, I rely on partners like food safety work to get timely a quick check-in with them from time to time, to make sure that I am compliant with everything. Because we are with the kitchens that we are setting up, we are essentially a small business that is being replicated across the country. We really don't have the capability or the big team that is required to track about what changes are required, what do I need to comply with. on a whole host of things, right? That's where partners like Food Safety Works really helps us on doing this. And like I said, there is always something that we find that there is something that has changed and we need to comply with. But at the same time, while I say India is a very difficult country to follow with all these rules, but it's also that there are that knowledge on these particular topics is very relatively easily accessible. There are people in the industry who open up and if you are interested, will always talk to you and tell you and guide you on what needs to be done. I'll leave it at that. It is a complex topic. The people need to get specific answers, but there are a whole lot of people who are out there to help you. And this is for entrepreneurs who are listening. Please don't get discouraged by the whole set of compliances that to be followed. There are people out there to help you. If you listen to them, you will be compliant with everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, it's collaborative. So if you're out to do something in the industry, there will be people there support all through the way. So we have a couple of questions for Dr. Kantaria. One is aflatoxin is something that's prevalent in a lot of your ingredients. Is that something that is to be concerned about, or?
So aflatoxin is like, especially when you talk about nuts and all, so that is, present. But I think there are certain nuts or there are certain companies like Olam and all who provides nuts and which has aflatoxin very less than what is like, anyone allowed. So as per the FSSAI, look, all our old products, it complies to FSSAI rules and regulation. When I say all products, that means all ingredients as well. We have a system which is like, and every company has a system that, which has a clear-cut understanding of the COA, and there are certain ingredients which are being tested before being used for this some critical, and contaminants. More than that, every 6 months, as per the FSSAI rules, all the products, all the ingredients are being tested for the pesticides and fungicides. There is a whole set of pesticides and fungicides which is given by the FSSAI, and every 6 months, all the products are randomly being checked for those levels of pesticides and fungicides in the ingredient itself. So I don't think there is a concern over here. Level of aflatoxin in the nuts, and as far as my products are concerned, is very much low, or maybe very much less than the FSSI permitted limits. So I think that's not a concern, certainly.
The other question is, of course, something that you had partially addressed was how do you think the front of the labeling would affect the industry? Where you did mention that it's time for the industry to come in and actually work together and also increase awareness for consumers.
Yeah,
So
so I
great.
think
So
no, which is very much to add to this, and there should be certain rules and regulation that the claim should be like this only. There should be a format which should come and let the competition compete with each other. Like product name should be here only. The claim should be here only on this fonts only. It should like highlighted in such a way. It should be equal for all the products, and let them product compete with each other, because there are like many misguided products which are like claiming like very big that it is high protein. Now what is high protein, do you know? I mean, the many small companies don't even follow what is high protein as per the rules. So they keep on succeeding, and I don't name the company, but there is like high protein cookies which is there in the market right now. Now that particular product which is there in the market has, of course, high protein, little bit higher protein than the regular product. But regular product which we have been eating since we were like younger, if I compare with that product, the high protein cookie has more sugar, more fat, and very much little high protein, 2 to 5% higher than the what is there in the what is there in my product. Now what is high protein, and what is the use of eating those kind of products? So this misguidance, consumer misguidance, should not be there. Like you should not misguide the consumer. You should be ethical, and ethics is something which will take a long time to come in India. I think there are many ethical companies, but I think when it comes to cost, I think many companies compromises. But I think we have taken a stand right now that
Yeah.
we will have maybe a higher cost of the product, but will not compromise on the product quality and whatever we offer to the consumer. So ethics is something which is very important, and I think every company should follow. Yeah,
Absolutely. And I think it's about getting your priorities right. Like you
certainly.
said, you're here because of the consumers. So
Yes,
it's to make sure that you don't mislead them in any way. Great.
definitely.
So just to wrap up, of course, we were at the eve of Christmas Eve, and day after is when Christmas Day. And traditionally, there's 12 days of Christmas that begin with the 25th. So, of course, festive season for giving, sharing, but that should not include bad health or foodborne illness. So, considering our topic and all that we've discussed today, I wanted to wrap up with 12 tips for safe holidays that our listeners could follow. And if we could have four each. Now, I've listed down some of the topics, but then, whatever you're comfortable with. Starting with you, Dr. Kantaria, four tips on awareness, possible contaminants, and best practices that consumers can follow.
So what I would, strongly say, recommend is like, just check first of all, if you are eating the packed product, just check that, that pack is intact. It is not, there is not even small pinholes, like, there are many, products which comes with the full of nitrogen. And for the ease, what the retailers or departmental store people does is like, they make a pinhole into that so that it fits into the shelf. So you should be aware about one thing, that the packet is not compromised. That's first thing. Whatever you consume, even though the fresh product which is coming, I'm sure right now, Swiggy, Zomato, or whosoever like supplying, they are having a tape across it. It is untampered. So just please make sure that whatever you consume is untampered. That's first thing. Second most important thing is where it is coming from. Like, when you are like getting ice creams and all, right now Swiggy and Zomato has increased the limits that they are delivering ice cream like far off, delivering in 63 minutes. Now, that is something which is, I think, not advisable. You consume products which are like very sensitive, like ice creams, should be within the 30 minutes, maximum 30 minutes. I think it should reach to you within 25 to 30 minutes, and you keep it in the refrigerator or deep freezer. And the products like cakes and all, of course, it's a good move that it is being delivered warm. I am like really impressed with Mahesh's thing, and impressed with Vimal's activeness on this, that their products, consumer can monitor this, what is the temperature it is being delivered at. So it is like something very important consumer should know. And consume warm product, you know and always look for, when you eat something, always look for pathogens, or always look for contaminants if it is there. So don't rush into consuming the product. Just check, physically check whatever you are consuming. Cut it once, check inside what is there. And if you find anything which is like not like, suppose when I say moisture level, if it is highly moist, or if it is very dry, then think twice before consuming it. you know because there may be some changes in the product, and changes in the product structure is always due to some mishandling, or thermal shock, or maybe anything, a process which may lead to the contaminants. So please be careful about it, and don't consume the product which is like should be consumed freshly cooked, but it is having shelf life of 3 to 4 days. But don't consume it at the end of the 4 days without heating it. Just be aware about what you are consuming. Yeah. And if you get any signal, our body is like very much that what everybody's body is like very much aware about. Even if the small contaminants or small microorganism goes into your body, you always puke it. You feel like puking kind of a sensation. So I think you should be very much aware about what you are consuming, and be very much rest assured, means be assured that what you are consuming is right. Don't rush into the consumption. Consume less. Don't eat so much sugar or so much fat or consume less, consume balanced, and enjoy your festivities.
Excellent. Thank you. Right now, Mr. Sharma, your 4 tips on mindful indulgence, safe handling, gifting, and local and sustainable practices. You're on mute. Sorry.
I think it's always hard if you go to second, and probably I feel for Mahesh because doctor has covered everything, right? I don't think I can give you 4 tips such as doc is there. One tip I just want to give is that storage conditions, right? I think you should really focus on storage conditions in terms of whatever product you're buying. You are there to that storage condition is very important. And of course, check the shelf life. And yeah, so these are the 2 things I, as a consumer, generally do when I purchase any products, to ensure that I understand the storage conditions and the shelf life, and I try and stick within those two things.
Excellent. Perfect. And Madhya, your 4 tips on safe ordering, purchase, best practices, and of course, a balance.
Sure. I mean, specifically on the delivery platform, guys, I think, for all the listeners out there, please stick to a brand, right? Please stick to good brands, because you will find a lot of guys out there giving you great discounts, but you really don't know what is happening in the kitchen. When a brand is out there, has made a certain promise, Dr. Ramesh talked about ethics, XYZ, right? But these are brands who are there in this business in the long run. They will make those choices for you. So the place where you're ordering from, it's not just about the discount that you get, right? So that's important. That's number 1 for me. The next one is the packaging, right? Please make sure that whatever whatever arrives at your place, right? Please make sure that the packaging is intact. If not, might as well raise a complaint with the aggregator, but might as well discard it and order something more if you're especially around the time talking about the 4th wave potentially, right? The third one is make the right choices on portion size, and finally, moderation is key in everything. These are the 4 tips, and happy festivities, everyone.
Thank you so much. We have, of course, exceeded time, but this is something that we can go on with, and particularly, I think the passion that all of you bring with your and work. But it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I'm sure our viewers have got a lot of insight and understanding on how to have safe celebrations, and of course, the choices that they make and the brands that they choose, which is very, very important. Now, just a quick little note on Food Safety Works. We, of course, continue our monthly webinar series, and we welcome any feedback and any topics that our listeners would like covered. We can have that emailed on feedback@foodsafetyworks.in. And of course, to stay updated on our webinars, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We also have an app, which is currently only for Android on the Play Store, which is Food Safety Works, where we share our regular news, insights, what's happening in the world of food safety, in the industry. As a company, we're committed to end-to-end solutions for food safety, and we regularly also conduct online trainings on various topics, upskill sessions, including mandatory FOSTAC trainings as per FSSAI. To know more how we can help you on the journey, please do log on to our website, www.foodsafetyworks.com, and subscribe to our newsletter as well. And thank you so much, Dr. Kantaria, Mr. Sharma, and Mr. Madhyala. Thank you for your time and all the insights that you've shared. And
Merry
wish
Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Wonderful holidays. Absolutely. And I hope it's a safe 2022 for everyone.
Yeah, we
Thank
wish
you.
so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Wishing
guys.
all a happy festivities, and thank you, Namita, for this platform. I think it was very interesting discussion.
Great.
And
Thank you, guys.
thank you very much. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mahesh.
you.
Thanks,
Take
Vimal.
care.